Let me introduce ourselves. Today with you is Susanna and Maneh. I'm the founder and CEO of HBC, Hierarchy and Business Consulting, and Maneh is the Associate Director of Admissions at ESADE. Thank you for joining, Maneh.
Thanks to you very much, Susanna, for inviting me today. I'm very happy to have a chance to have this talk with you and maybe see how we can help our viewers with
Likewise.
This topic about CVs and portfolios and so on.
Yes, so I think we should first tell the audience why, in the first place, we came up with this topic, why it's important at this age and time. So, in fact, having gone through the same as any student out there who is watching us, I can assure you you're not alone, being lost after graduation or even before, not being able to get interviews, get to talk with the employers, with the HR managers, and kind of stand out from the crowd. So I really have empathy for you, just know it. So, and Maneh here is joining us to open the doors a little bit to the HR world. How's the admissions going from the university's perspective? However, all the tips that she will share during our webinar can absolutely be used in all the other spheres of corporate world as well. So, Maneh, can you please just introduce yourself a little bit and tell the audience why you think you can help them.
Yes. Well, as you already mentioned, Susanna, I work as an Associate Director of Admissions at ESADE, which is a business school based in Barcelona, Spain. And the reason why I believe I can bring value to this conversation is because I have been working for many years in different industries, and for the past almost 5 years I've been in higher education, where I also have been on the hiring side, receiving resumes and job applications, but also I have seen many CVs of students, right? So although I'm not a human resources specialist, I do have quite a lot to say in this area, and I hope that what we are going to talk about will be helpful for our viewers. So yes, we can talk about how to make a CV in a better way, what not to do when making your CV. We can cover the portfolio part a little bit, which I'm sure that you have a lot to say about. And so I'm very excited.
Yeah, likewise. I just want to say one thing, that before being on the other side, like being an employer, I was thinking, okay, why does this feature in my CV matter, or why does this small thing in my cover letter matter? Only after experiencing all that from the other side of the road, you kind of come up and understand why it mattered in the first place, and you kind of then think, okay, I had to do this in another way myself when I was, applying for different positions or admissions for business schools myself. So that's why we think this topic is really important, and we have something to share and help others. So let's start, Maneh. Please start with the presentation.
I do have the presentation. Yes, perfect.
Yes.
So what we will be doing today, we'll be talking about CV and portfolio for marketers in this case. Mm-hmm. And let's talk about what a CV is in the first place, because although it might seem obvious, but you would be surprised sometimes being the things that we see in of what you have done, in which you want to defend your CV. Let's say, this is my experience in my CV, and in a cover letter, you're telling more about what you have achieved, how you did that, and so on. And the professional portfolio is the collection of work and other documents that ideally provide a complete picture of a job candidate's abilities to potential employers. As we said, this is a place where you can brag about yourself. Okay, this is the perfect place for showcasing the work that you have created and prove the quality of your work, for example, your style, and so on. And well, now we will be talking about, giving some tips, okay, about how to write a professional CV. And the tips are 11. Of course, I can imagine that in the world there are hundreds of tips, okay? And of course, it's always important to find the best line or style that fits your job, because actually there is no one fits all when it comes to CVs. Of course, some areas, most of these tips that we will be giving, you can take as hard rules, because they're some things have to be the way that are recommended to be, but in a lot of other aspects, of course, it's also important to go for the area that's best for your job application, let's say. But well, this was one tip on its own. So the first tip would be specific about your job responsibilities. So more specifically, we can say that the CV is not a detailed description of what you have done in your life in general. Here you have to be specific about your job responsibilities for the given job that you're applying. You don't have to list everything you have done in your life, okay? It's not necessary. Instead, you have to specify only those roles and responsibilities which are relevant for the particular job. So you are basically expected to adjust your CV for every single job that you apply. However, here is an important thing that I would like to note. We all know that most companies also don't want to see gaps on your CV. So especially those who change their industries, I'm one of those people. It might be difficult to not show your jobs that are not relevant, right? But what's important here is to know how to connect the dots. Okay, I, for example, have worked in hospitality for many years. And that was an important part in my career, because I have learned very important skills when I worked in hospitality. Mm-hmm. However, I later shifted to other industries. So that does not mean that I was expected to erase all my years of work experience in hospitality just because I was moving to another industry. Absolutely not. My challenge was to connect the skills that I gained from my work in hospitality to the jobs that I was aspiring to have, right? Yeah. So this is one important tip that you can also consider, I believe, in this set.
I can totally, by the way, relate to your situation myself, because I have myself worked as a lawyer, and when I was applying for jobs in sales and marketing, the first question I was being asked is why do you want to work in sales or marketing, having a law background? So that is why real communication or cover letter, whatever you prefer, which way you prefer to communicate all these, ideas of why in the first place you made these changes in your career, or why you're applying for different kinds of jobs in different niches. So So that's why cover letter was created for, but that the way it's being transformed, we'll talk about it later with Maneh, to how to replace cover letter.
We might have a debate there.
Yes.
Yes. Second tip. Research required job experience. So here again, right? This is one of those cases when nowadays, because life is so fast, because everything is fast, we are used to getting whatever we want within matters of minutes. We don't want to, invest too much time, and a lot of companies actually have already. Are we having connection issues?
No.
Doesn't seem like that. I'm sorry, I had a bit of bug.
Okay.
So a lot of companies are accepting that. However, there is this theory in which, according to which, if you apply to 100 jobs, you will get a response, a certain percentage of responses, and the probability of success is still there. And in this case, you don't have to invest the time and etc. But let me tell you a secret. While that might be true in a lot of jobs, it might be a bit untrue if you're really serious about a specific job. Mm-hmm. If there is a job out of that 100, list of 100 jobs you're applying to, my recommendation is really dive into it. Go do some research, find out information, stalk people on LinkedIn if you have to, find who are behind the job. What I have done in the past also, I tried to look up the profiles that were having similar roles to see what their background was, to understand what the company was looking for. So there are different ways you can research, okay? Mm-hmm. One is reading information on the website, but what I have understood also is companies don't care if you know in which year they were founded, okay? The important things you want to take with you from this research are basically, have you understood the values of the company? Have you understood their products? Do you know what they are up to, what they want? And these are the things that actually matter. So it's not about learning by heart the history of the company, but more like understanding the company, their values, their mission, and seeing if you actually fit with that, and showing that to the companies through your CV, and hopefully to the interviews in the future.
By the way, I'd like to add something on top. There are the companies right now are divided in two. So the ones that are still working in this modern era with the code, like moral code of the 20th century, and the ones that have totally moved to the new era and are very fast and furious. With these fast and furious types of companies, like I can list some of them. One of them is Netflix, actually. And the ones that get to work there know that every single day they work as if it's their last day, because the moral, like the values of the company, is structured in a way that they go for competence over anything else. And when you apply for jobs, this is the type of research you have to do first. Like, what kind of company are they? Are they one of those fast and furious types like Netflix, or they belong to the 20th century and still operate in 21st? So when you start talking, even before starting talking during those interviews, you have to know this. And this will set the tone of how you present yourself. Are you going to agree with those values yourself? So even this is actually important. So many people deep in their heart like do not agree with the types of values that this company is setting for, but they still apply and they get burned even if they get accepted to this company. So make sure you really match the types of value they pursue in this corporate world.
Mhm. Exactly. Yes. So we all can agree that it's important to understand the companies before you,
Even
at least before you go to the interview.
yes, true.
Next tip is show your achievement. Okay. Here, what you want to show actually is how you achieve the results, your abilities, your potential, and not just the responsibilities. Because you know what? Everyone knows what the job responsibilities of certain jobs are. What people want to see is how you did it and what you have achieved. And for example, it's a great idea to put numbers. If you have, if you have had some achievements, you can put that there. Maybe you helped an organization to increase their sales, or maybe you have helped a company to improve their branding with certain, and you have numbers to prove that. So it's not, again, it's not about saying what you have done. It's more about showing how you contributed to the achievements within your role, let's say.
Yes, I can totally, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
sign under your words, because I remember an instance when we were filtering applications for a role. If I'm not mistaken, it was for a UI UX designer. We wanted to hire one, and we applied we received so many applications for that position, and it was kind of really hard to pick one, or because if we are going with design wise, every one of them looked really nice, color wise, brand wise, everything looked really nice, but there were portfolios or even CVs that standed out because they included statistics of how the website that they have designed performed after they designed it. Meaning, did it increase the click rate? Did it increase the conversion rate? How was the traffic? Was it mobile friendly? How the users replied to how the friendability of the website, etc., etc. So there are so many ways of how you can showcase the real result, the real value of your achievements of your work, other than just saying, I have done the UI UX of this website, here is the link, check it out. So there are even for the most difficult jobs out there, like design, which is all about visuals, you can still come up with statistics of how it performed. You can come up with numbers, you can come up with names, and even testimonials.
Exactly. I agree, Susanna. And one thing we can add here only is if you don't have work experience, don't worry, because school is also a great place where you surely had an opportunity to demonstrate your personality, to have achievements, and you can also, of course, include information from your school. Maybe you have done a project at school. You have perhaps volunteered at school events. All of these counts. This is important. In my experience, I sometimes have, teenagers who are 16, 17 feeling guilty that they don't have experience. And of course, I find that very cute, but don't worry. Surely putting there some information about your personality matters, because when you're just out of school, you just started university, no one actually expects you. And if some people expect you to have great experience, then trust me, you don't want to also, insist on working there. So it's important to know where you stand and to value your achievements at that point of your life, and proudly be able to present whatever you have, okay, within your application. Well, next tip is showing and not just listing your skills. And this but I think this is a really difficult part of CVs, because you have to be concise, you have to be straight to the point, and it's hard because you can't just tell what you have done. This is what you can do through a cover letter. But here you really have to demonstrate specific things with just a list, with just words, let's say. In my experience, whenever I see, certain lines, I know it's copied from Google. Highly motivated, etc., seeking for a challenging. These are words that we all heard a lot, okay, and I think it's time in the history of job applications to be braver and go beyond that and use what you want to use in order to to show yourself. In this case, for example, let's say hardworking, fast learner, team player, energetic, strong communication skills, etc. These things everyone writes, and while you can still write them, it's not like never ever use the word hardworking. For example, you can try at least to show that you have these skills by showcasing your achievements. For example, I don't know, if you write about an initiative that you had, and an event that you created, etc. This actually shows that you are an energetic person. If you had a success within that project, it probably shows that you have also demonstrated good communication skills and so on. In the skills area, of course, you can always put keywords. You can put these words if you believe that these are some of these, let's say, are some of your strongest skills. That's good, because that can catch the attention, and you can always talk about it more and show and prove during an interview, let's say. But try to limit it and be careful just with this kind of big words that everyone wants to use, let's say. Okay. And of course, remember, CV should be short, 1 page or 2 pages maximum. Don't make it 3 pages. People who make it 3 pages, I have seen some, let's say, academic CVs, and unless you really have hundreds of research papers to mention in your CV, there is really no necessity. We can later tell you how you can make sure that you stick to only 1 or 2 pages, because there are tools that you can use. And this would be the tip, basically, about showing and not just listing your skills. Using professional industry terminology. This is nice. This is helpful, depending on which industry you're aiming at. In the case of marketing, of course, you want to use the skills that you have and to show that you understand the industry. So in the areas of marketing, of course, you can use terminology. Usually jargon, let's say, it is not encouraged in business communication when you are talking to general, let's say, public, because you never know if people will understand what you're like. Metrics, I don't know, Google Analytics, and not everyone has to know those things. But when you're applying for a specific job that's in marketing and that matters, this is the place for you to shine by, showing off a little bit the terminology that's specific to your industry.
Yes, by the way, I have a very nice example about that tip. We recently had a position for influencer marketing specialist, and I received so many applications where all, like, of course, like 90% of the CVs were marketing related, but very few were influencer marketing related. So even within the topic, you can be even more specialized, you can be even more specific of why this job is for you. Of course, we eliminated all the others, even though they were marketing related. However, those that repeated at least the word influencer marketing handful of times shined in front of our eyes, and we assumed that these people are obviously more interested in the job itself, are experienced for the role much more than the others. So even though terminology matters, even job-specific terminology matters even more, I would say. Like, be careful to use the keywords at least handful of times if you know that this is what the employer is looking for. Because I can assume that let's say engineering and mathematics go hand in hand, right? But when you apply for a role in as a mathematician, it's you have to at least list the word mathematics at least 5 times in your CV, and not go just for engineering.
Exactly. Well, moving on to the next tip, it's presenting information in easy to capture format. And for us marketing people, I think this is particularly important.
And not go just for...
It can hurt your eye if you, if you have CVs to go through that are hard to process visually, let's say, at least. You have to always keep in mind that when you're applying for a job, those people are probably getting a lot of applications, a lot of CVs, and you want to use a little bit of, consideration because this is just scientifically, right? The visual communication is important because it can affect the first impression, let's say. So if you have very small fonts, very long lists, too many changes within the block of text, all of these are not encouraged. You want to be systematic in the style that you're using, the colors, the headlines, whether they are bold, italic, underline. Try to avoid as much as you can. Of course, you want to visually separate headlines, like your position, the name of the company, maybe the period that you worked for those companies. So maximum, try to make them bold or italic, but don't make bold and italic. For example, this is just a small tip, but try to... there is a term, and a lot of people in marketing, we love this term. It says less is more. So this is the place to always keep that in mind. And make it easy to read for the person that gets your CV. And yes, this is very important. Not exaggerating your achievement, literally. It's not necessary to copy-paste big words again from Google about the position, and it's important to also the opposite also, okay? It's also not necessary to undermine your achievements. It's important to give a realistic view of what you have done, what can you do, okay? Because you might have done amazing things, you might show that you have done amazing things, but imagine one day you're going to take on the role hopefully, and you have to demonstrate those skills. So you want to be honest in your application. I really believe that honesty in during the job application is an important thing. Again, be mindful about this, because you can be honest about not knowing something, but you also want to demonstrate willingness to learn if necessary. So you have to know how to, present the things that you think are important that maybe you don't have, but that's okay, because you are actually willing to do it, right? In my case, for example, like my Spanish, living in Spain, my Spanish language has not, been one of my strongest languages. And although I have usually used it in work environments, but it was more for chatting with colleagues, etc. I never really used it for. So if I saw that a job required Spanish, I always tried to be honest, and I'm always willing to study and make it perfect, let's say. But if a job requires a native level Spanish language, I would, for example, be very, very honest about it. So yeah, that would be not exaggerating your achievements.
By the way, the same situation worked in my case as well. Not knowing native level German, there was a time where the job itself didn't even demand German, but they put it in the in the job description. And it was evident that it was just, a preferable, like optional thing that they really wanted the applicant to have. In this case is where you feel like the whole job itself isn't demanding of it too much, or the company is pursuing English as a corporate language. You can always apply and mention that you feel like, even though you have mentioned native level of German in your in your job description, I, however, feel like I match the job itself and the company. So, like, give me a chance, and you'll not regret it during the interview. So
I do have actually, about now that you mentioned interview and honesty. Okay, it's not about the CV specifically, but an example from an interview. But I like this example, so I'll mention about it. Years ago, when I was in my master's program, and there was this internship opportunity that we all applied to, because it was the coolest internship in town. It was the Electronic Music Festival, one of the best in Europe, and I applied too. I love electronic music. I always loved electronic music, but it has not been the kind of music that I listen to at home, let's say. For me, it's been dance music, and I was not that knowledgeable about it. Okay, so I went to the interview with the head of communications, and we had this really fun chat in a couple of languages. We mixed a bit of English, Italian, etc. So it was a really honest kind of interaction I had with her. And she asked about my interest in music, and I was very honest. She asked about electronic, and I said, well, at that time, one of my favorite singers was Carole King, who is a hippie singer from the 60s. And when I left the interview, I told my classmates, they were like, how could you do that? You should have learned the names of electronic music, performers. And it's like, you know what? I was honest. I am very passionate about music. And this is what it was, and I got the internship actually, and it might have been surprising for some, but I think sometimes, and it was an internship. I'm sure I would not, get responsible position in that company with not knowing the industry as good as you would be required. But for that specific position, I think, and I think in all positions generally, honesty is important. Basically, this is the tip
Yes.
that we're trying to give. Because imagine if you exaggerate, you make up things, and then you're at the job and you can't demonstrate.
By the way, I can also assure the audience that even though after you are being honest, you won't get the job, maybe that was the best thing that could happen both to you and the company as well. There was a situation where I was asked at a company. I was applying for a marketing manager position in the company where I was already working as a junior specialist, and I was asked where I was seeing myself in 5 years, and I was already planning on founding my own company, and I was already fully immersed in all this that is happening at HBC now, and I was honest about it. I didn't, cover it up with, fake promises of sticking to the company even after 5 years. And I said, I see myself already as an entrepreneur and having my own business. And it was a shock for them. And I started explaining why I was thinking that way, why I still want the position in the meantime, etc. I didn't get the job in the end, of course, but lying something like that, where when all your colleagues already know that you are starting your own business and you have created even the website and all the socials, and all your friends can deliver, or all your colleagues can deliver the word to the employers that have just been interviewing you. So it would be a huge mistake. Now that I look back, it was the best thing that could happen to me, because if I got the job, I would have probably not even continued with my own business.
Very good. Well, things happen for a reason. This
Yes.
sounds a bit overly used term, but sometimes it's actually wise. Well, moving on, specifying relevant courses. Yes, this is also good if you have taken, if you're applying for a marketing and communications job and you have, done some courses on Coursera or others. Put it there. It's good. It shows that you have constant interest, because sometimes people think that education is limited to higher education. That's not true. Being an expert in higher education, what I can tell you is one thing that we like at ESADE also. It's one of the programs that we have has a strong aspect of this also, is you have to learn how to learn. This is important. Our parents' generation would go to university, and they would finish university, and their skills would be valid for the next 10, 15, 20 years. Our generation goes to university, and then we have to keep updating our skills. And this is going faster and faster. So it's important to mentally be prepared to constantly update your knowledge of the industry and skills. So yeah, put some, show some, demonstrate your interest in learning constantly. Use a proper email. This is a quick tip. We're not going too deep into this, but this is very obvious, please. Best thing to do is put your name surname at domain.com. Really don't, like, I remember an email that was Pupsik at Mail.ru or something like that. I don't remember. And how can you take those seriously? You know, it might be we might all have those funny emails, and that's fine. No one says that you shouldn't. Good news is that we can have as many emails as possible. So you can always have a safe option for your job applications. Mm-hmm. It also you can also use this as a a way to help people remember your name and surname. I mean, getting an email from name and surname is a good way to get your name remembered. The next is keep it clean and professional. We already talked about this a little bit, but let's go over this again. The format matters. It's very important to make your CV visually okay for people to see, to read, and to take information. The simpler, the better, unless you are a graphic designer, because if you are a graphic designer, then show off on your CV. But in marketing also, communication, right? The written communication is important. If you're applying for marketing jobs, what you want to do is to show that you care. If you are in marketing, you have to be detail oriented. You have to be, there are certain skills that your CV is a place where you can demonstrate without telling that you, let's say, if you write in your CV that you are a detail oriented person, but the hiring manager finds 3 typos on your CV, that's no way a demonstration of you being detail oriented. So very important, please check. It's always a good idea to send your CV to your friends, to have someone read over, because even the most intelligent and educated person, a linguist, can make typos. It's okay to make typos. What's not okay is not to check for those. Mm-hmm. So this is the main tip I can, give also again and again in this sense. And about the style, there is one thing that I really like to do whenever I liked a job. I didn't do it, I have to be honest, I didn't do it for all the jobs I applied for. But when I really liked the job, I like to pick the brand colors and make the headlines of my CV in the colors of that brand. I always thought that's a little Maneh touch that I can put on my CVs, let's say. There is a tool called Canva. It's my favorite tool ever. I'm not a graphic designer, but thanks to this tool, I sometimes could come across as one. So use it. It's easy. You just need to get used to it. It has a lot of formats. Pick simpler ones. You can edit the formats, adjust it to your own job, description, and this is also what can help you to make sure that your CV is 1 or 2 pages maximum, because the templates are already there. All you need to do is put the information of your CV, and you don't even have to do the reformatting. Having said this, there is one thing you always need to keep in mind: that overly complicated CVs might get lost in these systems, the tech systems that large companies are using now. I think they are called ATS. Yes,
I haven't heard about
applicant tracking systems. Yes, okay. So this is technology that's basically the first person who's not a person. So unfortunately, most of the times when we're applying to big companies, it's not even a human being that sees your CV first. And a lot of times these systems do not recognize formatted files, which is why, again, the simpler your CV, the better, so that you can make it easy for these machines to scan through your CV and pass it to a human being to assess. The next tip is save your CV with your name. Nice format. Again, wherever you have an opportunity to put your name, do it. In your email and your CV, your cover letter. This is one way to remind who you are, to help people stick your name in their minds. And of course, this is also clean and a sign that you care, because if you put CV, final or CV2, or it's not appropriate, it will get lost in someone's downloads folder and they will never even know whose CV this was. Whereas if you put your name, they can easily search for it. Yes, please always do that. You can always do your name, surname, underline, CV, underline if you want to put the year or any other relevant detail, marketing or something like that, if you think it's important. Otherwise, just your name and CV is enough.
By the way, before even we started this live, you remember you were telling me that there were instances that the CV can be saved in a Word format. Can you please tell us only in which case a person is allowed to save the CV in Word format?
Well, a lot of, let's say, a lot of high-level jobs don't care about the format. It's all about keywords. And if you're applying to a large automotive company as an engineer, you want their ATS, this system, to just as easily as possible get through the text of your CV. So in these cases, you can just make it the most simple Word CV possible, putting the keywords that they need about your engineering career and so on, and send it through. But otherwise, yes, the simpler possible format. Like for me, for example, this format that we're seeing in the picture can be argued. Okay, it can be considered as a great format because it's visually really nice. We can see the skills, clear headlines, showing a little text. By the way, I think this is always a good idea. Okay, putting in a couple of lines. I think this one is a bit too long, but putting a few lines explaining who you are and what you want. I always included some of the things that are very important for me, because if a company didn't have those things, I was not interested to work for those companies. So it's a place where you can have a statement, let's say. But basically, yes, about the Word format, it should not be always Word, and it should not be always PDF, or you really have to find a balance. There are places where it's preferred to have Word format because you want to make it as simple as possible, and other places where you can allow yourself a little bit. This is where you can use that research tip, try to understand a little bit the company, the job, the requirements, and so on. And this is what can help you make a decision. I don't, my CVs are, I used to have my CVs in Word, but then I saved that in PDF. Why also, when you send the document in Word, it's it's editable. It's like you don't want, in general, let's say 95% of the times you don't want to send Word CVs. It's really few cases where you want to send a Word document, and that's okay. But otherwise, even if you have your CV formatted in Word, perfect, that's good. It means it's simple and the ATS will read it. But saving it in a PDF format is always a good idea. When you have a 2-page CV, always in the header part, very small letters, transparent almost, put your surname or your name in case they have to print so that the second page doesn't get lost, let's say.
Good point.
So yeah. So, well, as again, we come always to the same point that there is no one fits all. Okay. But I mean, this example that we have is nice, but is it nice for all jobs? No. It's also a bit like the style that you have to consider, the use of colors that you're using. Do you want to make your own personality demonstrated more, or do you want your interest in the job to be more demonstrated in your CV? All of these are details that you can consider when choosing the style.
Well, I can imagine how time-consuming and exhausting the whole application process can be, and that's I know horrible, especially for the students who have very limited time to land on a job after graduation. They want it as fast as possible, and they don't want to spend months on preparing CVs and cover letters. But it's always best to take the time and do it properly rather than having to come back to it over and over again because of multiple reasons. One, it can be, I don't know, the job wasn't the best option for you, or you weren't the best option for the company. So yeah.
Yes. Exactly. Well, and next we can go through, most of these things we already covered, and we can go through again to kind of put some extra tips out there. So what if you have zero experience? Here you want to identify your most impressive qualities. You want to open with a personal statement. This is what we already mentioned. If you are someone that values, I don't know, teamwork, or if you are an independent player, and other aspects that are really important, you can put in a 2-3 line statement. Don't forget the obvious skills. Of course, the things that are always there, but sometimes you might think that, oh, well, everyone has it. And we don't put it. But when you are just entering the job market, you might be surprised that not everyone knows Excel, or not everyone can create PowerPoint presentations. So don't worry, just put them there. If you can use a MacBook, or you can use a Microsoft, for certain jobs it might matter, and feel free to put all those details there too. Treat your extracurricular activities like jobs. Absolutely. I believe that this is also a great opportunity to, because that volunteering job that you did at the camp, or when you helped at an event at school, all of this matters. So feel free to put them also. Adding some personality. This is, I think, especially nowadays when companies are so culturally aware and teamwork is valued, it's important for companies to know who they are hiring. So don't be afraid to show who you are, what you are doing. One of my best friends is very passionate about plants, and and she doesn't work. It's her passion project. But whenever she applied for jobs, she always showed that she has a lot of passion for it. She has a YouTube channel. This just shows how passionate as a person she is, and how much investment she makes when she's really interested in something. So again, whether you're interested in sports, in arts, anything that's unrelated to your job, feel free to put, because this can make you likable. What if the hiring person also has interest in that? Imagine. I always I love working with children. I worked as a nanny. It was one of the best times of my life. And it's completely unrelated. Well, maybe not completely, but it's unrelated to my professional experience, but I always include it, and I even connect it to my ability to connect with people, to have problem solving skills, because when you work with children, you better know how to solve problems and things like that. So yeah, again, this is a good place to show a bit of your personality. Playing up your degree, of course. Whether you wrote dissertations, you can talk about that, your research abilities, your education matters. Okay. One thing about this, putting the information on your CV, of course, your education and your work experience are the two main parts of your CV. What you want to do if you are applying for jobs, put your job experiences first. Don't put your university experiences first. Put your job experience as the first thing that comes on your CV, and then parallel to it, like in a second line or next to it, you can include also your education information. Cover letters, and here we'll be having the talk, and well, we can go through the main tips, right, of a cover letter, and then we can talk a little bit about how cover letters, in what kind of formats they can be. The first tip, of course, is addressing the letter to a specific person. I think this is important because you show that you have. If you have to go as far, I will be honest. I'm not a big fan of cover letters. We discussed this already with Susanna. I think that this is my personal opinion, of course. So unless a job specifically requires a cover letter, which is also apparently, it depends on certain countries, because in some countries it's really expected of you to put the cover letter, in some others it's not, or maybe industries. I'm sure in tech industry, I'm sure that programmers don't invest time in writing cover letters. But again, you want to know where you're going to, and whether it's expected from you or not. What I prefer doing, which is more or less similar to a cover letter, and it includes this, for example, like even if you write a cover letter, you have to find who you are addressing it to. My favorite strategy here has always been to search for the right person on LinkedIn, connect to them, and then send them a message, or find their email address, personal email address. And after you have submitted the online application, which went to a pool of applications, you send an email in a format of a cover letter to the person that actually matters for your job application. That helps you to stand out, let's say. So yeah, find the person. It's not that difficult nowadays. People don't hide. Everyone is on LinkedIn most of the times, or on the website of the companies. Clearly state the purpose of your letter. Susanna, do you think you would like to go through this?
Well, why not? Why not? Sure. So your opening line shouldn't be extravagant. Be very polite, be professional, and in fact, the line that Maneh has stated, that the less is sometimes more, go with it. Go with very short sentences, not long ones. Keep it simple, straightforward. State why you're writing. This is really important, because I'm sure any HR manager receives hundreds of emails and applications on a daily basis. So be sure that you state why you're addressing to this person. So you're applying for a job, you're asking for directions, you're asking for a document, you're just asking a question. Be very specific. and always state the position you're applying for. It might sometimes sound stupid, but if there is not a software that is generating all the applications, and the only way of applying for a job is just sending an email, you might end up not even mentioning the position that you have applied for. And we have had such instances, actually. If it's not, if you don't like putting the position name right on the subject, at least mention it in the body. But from my own experience, I can state that it's the easiest if you mention it on the subject line instead of somewhere else, because it takes approximately 10 seconds for an HR manager to scan your email. So yeah, let's go for the next.
To the next one.
Sorry. Yeah, no, don't recreate your entire resume. Yes, there are reasons why these, these two documents, cover letter and CV, are complementary. They are not, mutually exclusive. So be sure that you always have reasons why you have written cover letter and CV, and you do not repeat the same thing over and over again. All HR managers will go through both your resume and cover letter if you have attached both. So no need to repeat the same thing. It's just, you are just wasting the time of the HR manager, and they will end up feeling exhausted if you do so. And the cover letter is your chance to explain why you're genuinely interested in the company and its mission. There is one instance I would like to mention here. I've received cover letters where people were just writing down the things that we already know, like about us. For example, you were founded during pandemic, during those hard times. I feel, empathy for the company that has struggled and, grew during pandemic, etc., etc. Well, it's nice, it's cute, of course, but do not repeat the things we know about ourselves. It's your chance to highlight you as a professional, not us as a company. Though you can state facts about the company and in parallel explain why it matters to you, why it clings to you, kind of, and your situation. That's what can be, applied here. And not need to make it super formal. By the way, about this, please do not address women as ma'am. Please, this is a very horrible thing to do, because no matter the age, by the way, I'm not saying that there is an age matter here, that you come up with this term ma'am as soon as you know the age of the person you're addressing to. No matter what the age of the person is, please do not address them as ma'am. And
luckily, yes, we have reached a point in our society where we can address people by their names without, of course, if you're writing to the Queen or some special cases, you want to. But within professional areas, yes, it's just feel free to use the name of the person.
Well, I have to say that it's also a very country-specific thing. I've noticed that a lot of people from the Philippines and Nepal use this word a lot when addressing women. So make sure, even though should you be from anywhere, it's not so important. The thing is that the point of doing your research, doing your homework before even addressing this person, this is what matters. Be always open-minded, because the terms that you use in your country may not be applicable to somewhere else where you're applying to. So, for example, even in CV, if you're sending out your CV in the US, attaching your photo, having your photo or information about your age, your gender, your, I don't know, your nationality is prohibited to be inserted in the CV. However, if you're applying to Germany, for example, this kind of information is important and even mandatory. And if you do not insert this information, the HR managers won't even consider you for the role. So all this kind of information is part of the research, part of the homework that you have to do, and addressing the person as well. So if you're applying to a job, sorry.
Interesting that you mentioned that, Susanna. I totally agree. The cultural bias are always there, right?
Yes.
And some accepted norms. Although, like, I was now thinking, if someone from Nepal is applying to a large company in Europe, to be honest with you, I would also expect the HR manager to be aware of these cultural, differences, and not judge in case there is, the word madam, let's say, because I think this has to go both ways. But at the same time, yes, it's true that it's not so easy, to. I learned only recently of this, what you mentioned about the US, that we're not allowed. I always included a photo in my CV because, for a simple reason, I have a name that's uncommon. I have been living in Europe half of my life, and people don't know if Maneh Tonoyan is a woman or a man. So I often just include for that reason. Because I don't want to write Miss Maneh also, There are these small details that make a difference. And I agree with you that doing the research and learning about all of this actually helps in the process.
Yes. In fact, I must say that even in Armenia, most of the CVs were going without pictures attached to the CV. And when I remember when I moved to Germany, that was a shock for me because in my understanding, having a photo in the CV or having a personal information like marital status or whatever is in the CV is one more reason why you can be rejected, or one more reason why the decision upon you will be subjective. So it depends. What I can recommend to our listeners is that it's best you do your research rather than be disappointed.
I agree.
Yeah, let's move on to the next slide.
Oh, sorry, Eilish. I'm sorry.
No worries. Use action words. Don't overuse the word I. It's best that you start your sentences with even connecting words like however, moreover, or whatever, or instead, rather than the word I. Because it kind of leaves an impression that you are very, self-centered, too much self-centered. So be careful. And there are cliches like fast thinker, highly creative. Always scan for your cover letter for adjectives. The less adjectives you have, the more rational you seem to be. And if you can go for numbers, names, testimonials, statistics of how your work has impacted your previous working environment or your colleagues or the company that you have worked for, it's best you go for actions, rather than adjectives. And here are a few examples. For example, to demonstrate leadership skills, accomplished, contracted, assigned, directed, orchestrated, headed, delegated. And to demonstrate communication skills, again, action words like addressed, translated, presented, negotiated, moderated, promoted, edited. And the next tip would be restate your enthusiasm and thank the reader. This goes on not only for the cover letter, actually, but also the follow-up. After the interview or a call you had with the employer, take the time and just send a small, very short email thanking the interviewer for their time and for their consideration. If you have something to add on top of the interview, maybe you have forgotten to mention something, maybe you feel uncomfortable for a situation that occurred during the call or an interview. We are all human beings, it happens to all of us. You can always correct the situation in your follow-up email. So the closing of your letter, your cover letter, should reiterate your interest in the position, thank the reader for his or her consideration, and state that you look forward hearing back from them, and include your signature at the very bottom. There are a lot of people who just, state like kind regards or best regards and the name and surname, but I would recommend you to take the time to use HubSpot's free signature generator that allows you to attach your photo in your signature, your expertise. For example, if you don't have a job at the moment in your current or you don't have a job at the moment, you can just write for example, digital marketing expert or marketing specialist, whatever you feel you belong to. And also write down your phone number, your email, restate again, and your website if your portfolio is in the form of a website.
I would like to add one thing,
Yeah, sure.
Susanna. In the cases when you are sending an email after you have submitted an online application, you might want to also attach your CV.
Yes.
Just like even though you have already sent your application and then you're sending an email or a LinkedIn message to the specific person, writing all the things of the cover letter and adding all of these. And also I attach my CV once more for your reference, because in case that means you help them, to have your CV in their hand without having to go to the pool of applications that they have received.
Yes, I agree with you. By the way, it takes somewhere between 8 to 10 seconds for the HR manager to look through your CV and your documents. However, if you send it via different methods, like one way is just the regular application software and the other one is emailing them, imagine your CV will be reviewed twice instead of once, and the view span that is allocated to your CV is somewhere around 16 seconds instead of the half of it. The next one, be consistent in formatting. Visual consistency makes a big difference. This is true for fonts, this is true for colors, and for whether you want to go for bold for old headlines or italic for old headlines. Be consistent. Do not overuse fonts, or don't go for extravagant fonts. Always be classic. Keep your letter to just one page. We have already said for CV, and it's true for cover letter as well. And if you're converting the letter to a PDF, make sure the formatting is translated properly. And then here is a cover letter example. You can see that it has a headline, it has contact details, addressing, introduction, the body, the ending, and then in the end you see sincerely the name and surname. I really recommend to have a longer signature in the end. If it's possible to have a real signature in electronic format to be inserted in the bottom, it's even better. But this all of this is not rules, but it actually is like the signature part is more what do you like. It should really cling to your personality, to what you are, to what you know believe in. So be genuine in how you want to present yourself. And thank you
Yeah.
for thank you for considering our webinar, to to joining us and to listening all the details that we have mentioned. In fact, we were supposed to go even deeper into portfolio, but now I feel that we would exhaust our audience with even more information in the end. However, probably we'll consider to have another webinar just about portfolio and go through the details. Thank you. Thank you, Maneh, for hosting us.
Thanks to you, Susanna. Thanks to you very much for inviting. This is a topic that's close to my heart, and I'm very happy that we were able to go through these details. Hopefully, it was helpful for those who have seen or will watch. And yeah, thanks very much for inviting
It's
me,
been a
Susanna.
pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
I wish everyone a beautiful weekend.
Yeah, have a nice weekend, and so
Well, have a good day,
yeah.
everyone.
Have a good
Bye-bye,
day. Bye bye.
Susanna.
Bye,
Talk to you
Maneh. Thank
again.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.